Okay, this is the second episode. The chapter is called David, my personal story of abandonment. The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. It's an African proverb. Growing up without a father figure in the home can trigger a lot of emotions for a young man to deal with. One of them is the feeling of abandonment. Abandonment makes us feel unwanted, discarded, and thrown away. It took years of my life to finally accept who I was and not compare myself to the lucky ones who had a dad. A man doesn't abandon his family because of the child, but because of the man. They are the weak one. It is not your fault. Understanding the situation outside of yourself allows you to accept the cards you were dealt with and is the first step in creating the life you want. You are not beholden to anyone's idea of who you are supposed to be, but are free to create the person who you want to become. My earliest memories were of living in a mobile home where my best friends were stuffed animals Big Bird and the Cookie Monster. My mom called me to dinner, and after we ate, my dad would light a cigarette for my mom and himself. One day, they must have noticed my face and offered me one. I was 5 years old. They probably did it to teach me a lesson. However, I puffed on it and the next night asked, "Where's mine?" My mom and dad divorced shortly after that. They were in their early 20s and struggling financially. My mom says that she left him because he was dealing drugs and she didn't want that around her child. David would pick me up every so often, and I would go spend time with Grandma and Grandpa H. My Aunt Deanne loved me so much. She was the youngest sister at 16 years old, living at home. My toys were all in her room. I remember getting to play with some kind of plastic cube with marbles in it and coloring in a large Superman coloring book that was as big as I was. Grandma would give me some chocolate or banana pudding in a can, and I would wolf it down in the kitchen. Grandpa would be mowing the yard on a tractor with our dog Twerp following behind. Sometimes I would get to steer the tractor, and it was fun. I don't have any memories, though, with my dad, just his family. I hated coming home and would cry every time. So many memories are coming at me right now. This all happened within a span of maybe 2 years. My dad would pick me up at home on his motorcycle, and I would ride between him and the handlebars. Of course, my mom was super worried, but that was the early 1980s. I remember being told not to wake him up as we shared a room. His bed had a yellow blanket and mine a red one. I would wake up super early and would have to tiptoe out of the room, trying not to make a sound. Then I would quietly turn on the TV and watch my cartoons until the rest of the household would wake up. Often I would play with the kids across the street, but wasn't allowed out of their driveway. I would sit in the driveway and play with my General Lee car from the Dukes of Hazzard. One day, my dad introduced me to his new family. I now had a stepmom, Carol, and an older stepsister, Vanessa, who was 10 years old. Vanessa and I would listen to Michael Jackson's Thriller album over and over in her room. I was 6 years old. That is still one of my favorite albums to this day. This was my simple life at the time. I would go to school, I live with my single mom, and then every couple of weeks go to Grandma and Grandpa H's house. My last name was the same as my dad's. I thought this was normal. One day, David picked me up and we went to his house and not Grandma H's. He lived in another mobile home where he spent the weekend repairing the stairs on the front porch. I spent most of my time watching cartoons and eating M&Ms from a crystal bowl. I remember thinking how fancy that bowl was and how cool it was that I didn't get into any trouble eating so many M&Ms. Carol was leaving with Vanessa and asked if I wanted to go see Dick and Frida. I didn't know who those people were, but later found out that it was Grandma and Grandpa H. Those were their real names. I was pretty mad about that later on. That allowed for me and David to be alone. We were rarely alone. David came inside and asked for me to sit down at the dining room table. He started out asking if I knew that Daddy would give Mommy money, and I nodded yes. He told me that with all the money that he had given, I could have had a computer by that time. Computers were a big deal back then. They were super expensive and not everyone had one. I always wanted one because I thought they were so cool. Now I was mad at my mom. How dare she spend my money and not buy me a computer? He then looked me in the eye and told me he had something serious to tell me. He told me that he wasn't my real dad and that he had adopted me. I was 6 years old and didn't understand what he was talking about. All I heard was that he wasn't my dad. Mom told me I came home bawling. We had spent every Christmas together for as long as I can remember. David, I don't call him Dad anymore, had told me that he would see me at Christmas break. I had 2 weeks off from school and was super excited to see him and his family. Mom was trying to tell me not to get my hopes up, but I told her no, David would come to get me. I waited in the windowsill for 3 days and he never showed up. My mom tried to coax me away from the window, but I was stubborn, thinking that if I left the window, he would show up and I would miss him. He never did. I haven't seen him since. I've hated him my whole life until now. It's a scar that never fades. It took me close to 40 years to figure things out. My issue, and probably yours, is a fear of abandonment. The fear of abandonment and then watching the person you love not hold up their end of the bargain in loving you back or leaving your life altogether. You have standards in your mind of who that person is, and they have let you down with the person they actually are. Their values are not your values. That's okay, and you are allowed to feel that way. David was 19 years old when he met my mom. My mom was a few months older than he was at 20 years old, but they were still babies. Here he is falling in love with a beautiful girl and all he wants to do is get laid. Things were different back then, and my mom needed to marry this guy. She had a toddler in tow. He needed sex and she needed stability. It's an old story. However, this teenager is now locked into a marriage with a woman who had a child out of wedlock with some other guy and talks David into adopting him. He's too horny to realize that adopting him is for life. David is now the husband, but also still a kid. He can't keep up with the demands of my mom, who wants to move forward with their lives. He still wants to hang out with his friends and go to the local pool hall. He's not even old enough to legally drink, but they go to the bar anyway. He's used to smoking pot. He works as a mechanic with dirty fingernails at the neighborhood mobile garage. His job doesn't pay shit and was probably not good enough for a woman who is independent and driven. It was like oil and water. They didn't mix. The marriage was over right after the honeymoon. He will give her the divorce she wants, but now she socks him with paying child support until I'm 18. It's okay for now that he's paying. Maybe they still mess around when he comes to visit, or he thinks she will come back to him. But after a couple of years, it comes to a head that she is never going to be with him again, and she has found someone new. He's found another love as well, but who also has a child. I find out later two things. One, David supposedly can't have kids, and two, the other woman was a friend of my mom's. Pull out the popcorn. You can't make this stuff up. Of course, this guy is going to walk away from me. It's too much trouble. I'm a constant reminder that she had sex with someone else, and I'm not his responsibility. Now he has to pay for me and his new family. He can't even afford cigarettes. And now the lady he was only married to for 2 years is getting married again to another dude, and she is still wanting child support? What a rip. I don't blame him for anything. He didn't abandon me. He walked away from her. He hates her. He chose to support his family. His new wife was probably pissed that a portion of their income went to his ex-wife. Better to pay a bill like a student loan that won't go away on automatic and not have to see the kid than be reminded of what a raw deal he made. The lesson is one of forgiveness. I had hate in my heart for too many years. I fantasized about smashing his face if I ever saw him again for the trauma I bared. 20 some odd years later, I got a phone call. Hello, dear, this is your grandma. Grandma H invited me to come to the house for a reunion. In her heart, I was still her grandson. She just waited until I was older than 18 to contact me. I arrived dressed up a little bit and was super nervous. I hadn't seen these people in years, and I had so much hate for David at the time. Grandma, Grandpa, my aunts Deanne and Donnell were all there. My younger cousin Ricky was there as well, just all grown up. My picture, when I was 6, was still on the wall. I ventured into the room that had been Deanne's, and my toys were still in the box. They were proud that I had joined the Marines and had grown up to be a good young man. David was nowhere to be found. When I asked about him, they stated he decided not to show up. That was the last time I saw them. I changed my last name to my maternal grandfather's when I got married. I needed to cut that part of my life out to focus on who I wanted to become. Understand, abandonment isn't just about the physical absence of a father. It's about feeling emotionally discarded and alone. Your single mom can't understand you. Your best friend with an amazing dad can't understand what you're going through. Whether due to divorce, death, or circumstances, the absence of a father can create a hole in your soul that can leave you feeling adrift and unanchored. Questions like, who am I? Where do I come from? Start springing up in adolescence. This hole can lead to a range of emotional baggage like anger, sadness, and a pervasive sense of unworthiness. The effects of abandonment show up in all kinds of ways. Maybe it's in your relationships, trust issues, fear of rejection, and keeping people at arm's length. Or maybe it's in the way you see yourself, like you're not good enough, not deserving of love or success. How many times have you sabotaged your own success without even realizing it? Abandonment can also stir up a lot of anger and resentment. Some guys turn to drugs, alcohol, or hookups to numb that pain. Others find themselves joining a gang just looking for somewhere to belong. Face your demons. The first step to healing is accepting those feelings of abandonment. You have to realize that it's okay to feel this way. It's not your fault. It sucks, but these are the cards you were dealt. Talk to people you trust, whether it's friends, family, or a therapist. Having a safe space to work through these emotions is key to figuring out healthy ways to deal with them. Rewrite your story. Yeah, growing up without a father has shaped your past, but it doesn't control your future. Reframe how you see things means recognizing the strengths you've built because of what you went through. You're not a victim of abandonment, you're a survivor who's stronger for it. Wear that badge with pride. Build your circle. Surround yourself with people who lift you up. Find mentors, role models, or even support groups that can help fill that void left by your dad not being around. Connect with others who get it. They'll guide and support you as you move forward. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself a break. Dealing with abandonment isn't easy, and you need to treat yourself with the same compassion you'd give someone else in your shoes. Learn to forgive, not just your absent father, but also yourself. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or letting anybody off the hook. It's about letting go of resentment so you can free yourself emotionally. Find your purpose and make your own path. The real journey is about figuring out who you are and what matters to you. Think back to when you were a kid. Who did you want to be when you were 10? Tap into your passions, values, and interests. By doing that, you'll find your purpose, your sense of purpose, and that will guide you forward beyond what your past tried to limit. Final thoughts. Those feelings of abandonment may stick around, but they don't have to define you. By facing them head on, rewriting your story, and building a solid support network, you can take back your power and start healing. Remember, you're worthy of love and belonging. No matter what your past looks like, your future is still bright.